Godfather death. There was once a man who had 12 children, and it was such a struggle to look after them. He had 2 jobs. He worked day and night. And then the 13th child came along, and it was even worse. He just didn't know what to do. Apart from anything else, he didn't know who to ask to be the godfather. He'd asked all his friends and the neighbours, twice in some cases, and there was what in diplomatic terms they call a full and frank exchange of views with his wife. Eventually he stomped out of the house and said, well, I'm just going to ask the first person I meet down the road to be the boy's grandfather. And God was manifesting himself in human form in that vicinity that day, as luck would have it. And the man met God as he walked down the road, and God could see what was in his heart and said, I will be the boy's godfather. I will keep him within the protection of my arms, and he will be happy all the days of his life. And the man said, who are you? And God said, I am God. And the man said, you're the one who gives more to the rich people and the bankers and keeps the poor poor. I don't want you as the godfather. And he stomped off down the road. And the next person he came across was a sharply dressed man with a Homburg hat on his head. And he said to the man, let me be the godfather, and your boy will have gold, and he will enjoy all the pleasures of this earth. And there was something slightly spooky about the way he said all the pleasures. He almost was salivating over it. And the man said, who are you? And the man lifted up and said, I'm sorry, allow me to introduce myself. And he lifted his hat to reveal his horns, and he twirled his tail in his left hand. I am the devil. Well, you're the ones who lie to men and lead them into bad ways, and you're not going to be the lad's godfather. And the man went further on down the road, until eventually he met what appeared to be a monk. He was dressed in a monk's habit, a long dark robe with a hood right down over his face. And he said, let me be the boy's godfather, and I will make him rich and famous. And who are you? And 2 bony hands came out from the folds of the robe and pushed back the hood to reveal a skull with glowing eyes. I am death. Well, you treat all men fairly. You come to the rich, you come to the poor, you treat them equally. You can be the godfather. The christening is on Sunday. Be at the church on time. And it isn't recorded what the man's wife said when he said he'd found death for the godfather, nor indeed what the priest said when death turned up at the appointed hour and held the baby through the christening. But all went well. And the boy grew to be a man. And about 16 or 18 years later, there was a knock on the door, and there was Death. Who have you come for? I've come for the boy. But it's all right, just to give him his godfather's present. And he took the boy out into the woods, and he showed him a herb and told him how to prepare it. He said, I make you a physician. And whenever you are called to a patient, I will appear just to you. And if I stand at the head of the patient, you may know that he will live if you give him the herb. But if I'm standing at his feet, then he will die, and nothing any physician on this earth can do will make any difference. And do not cross me in this, or it will go badly for you. And what Death had said came true. The boy became famous as a physician. He was infallible. If he said the person would live, they lived. If he said they would die, they did indeed die. And then one day, the king fell ill, and the physician attended upon him, and death was standing at his feet. But the boy thought quickly, he thought, famous as though I am, rich as I am, it will do no harm to my kudos to save the king. And quickly he told the king's servants, turn the bed around, put it through 180 degrees. And by doing that, death was no longer standing at the feet, he was standing at the head. And before death could say anything, he poured the herb down the king's throat, and the king revived. But death came to him subsequently and said, don't try that trick again. I warned you about it before. Do it again and it will be the worse for you. And some while later, the king's daughter became ill, and the king was desperate. He was crying so much he nearly went blind. And indeed, instead of doing the sensible thing and just summoning the physician, he sent out a decree to say that anyone who could cure his daughter would be able to marry her and would in turn inherit half the kingdom. And the physician went along, and death was there, and he was standing at the feet. And he thought, I think I dare risk it. I want to, because she is gorgeous, and I want to marry her, and I want the extra riches and the fame and everything that goes with it. And so he swept the girl up into his arms, turned around and put her on the bed and poured the herb into her throat before death could do anything. And immediately the colour came back to her cheeks and she was going to live. But death strode over and grabbed the physician by the wrist, and the ground opened up beneath them and they sank together through the earth, until eventually they came to a cavern filled with candles. There were billions of them. There were tall candles, there were short candles, there were middle-sized candles, and some were going out, and some were coming on every instant. They was flickering all around, and the heat was intense. And death said, this is the chamber of life. Every candle represents one life. There are big candles for young children who've got all their lives in front of them. There are little candles for old people at the end of their lives. Middle candles for those in the middle. And of course there are some children who only have small candles. And the physician thought, wow. Tell me, Death, where is my candle? Death said, that one there. And it was the smallest candle you have ever seen. And there was a puddle of wax, and the wick was about to fall over and the flame go out. And the physician looked at it and said, Godfather, can't you light another candle from that one for me so I can enjoy my life with the princess and the wealth and the fame and everything? And Death said, doesn't work like that. The flame has to burn right down. And the physician thought, tell you what, put that candle on top of another candle, then it'll burn straight down. And Death looked at the physician and smiled. And he bent as if to pick up and do as the physician asked. And those bony fingers reached down to the little stub of candle. And they squeezed together. And the flame went out.